Good morning from Fast Company. Here's our daily look into what's driving today's creative business leaders.
The following piece comes from Dr. Cree Scott. She was the CEO, founder of Serenity Psi Consulting, and served on the Harvard Business Review Advisory Council. Her book, The Missing Piece in Leadership: Reclaiming Connection and Purpose in a World of Distraction, was published on April 14th. Dr. Scott completed her book just weeks before she passed away in December 2025. She did not live to see it published. What follows is an excerpt from that book. Let me tell you about Paolo. He joined our video call with his usual polished demeanor, revealing none of the turbulence beneath. A mid-level manager with a track record of success. He was the kind of person others described as driven, sharp, and always in control. But his team was disengaged. His decisions were being questioned, and his confidence was quietly unraveling, and he had no idea why. At first, he blamed the usual suspects: company politics, shifting market demands, generational differences. But when I asked him to describe his own role in recent conflicts, he paused, genuinely confused by the question. What do you mean, my role? Through our coaching sessions, the pattern became clear. Paolo would dominate meetings, cutting off team members mid-sentence without realizing it. He dismissed feedback as resistance to change, without considering that his approach might be the problem. When frustrated, he'd become cold and withdrawn, with no awareness of how that was shutting his team down. Paolo's story isn't unusual. It's everywhere. Brilliant, capable people unknowingly disconnected from the one thing they need most to lead, succeed, and thrive: themselves. The myth leaders tell themselves. Here's the story most leaders carry. I'm different at work. I'm on. I'm focused. Whatever's going on at home stays at home. I understand the appeal. It feels like discipline, like professionalism, like exactly the kind of thing a high performer should be able to do. But it's not true, and the cost of believing it is enormous. You're a whole person, not a work person and not a home person operating separately. The leader who learns to pause and respond thoughtfully, instead of reacting, brings that same presence to a tense board meeting, a difficult conversation with their spouse, and every space in between. You can't be disconnected at home and magically connected at work, or vice versa. How you show up is who you are. The colleague who stops listening the moment they feel challenged? They're doing the same thing at dinner. The leader whose team never brings them bad news? Their kids probably don't either. Disconnection doesn't respect your calendar. It doesn't punch out at 6 p.m. It travels with you. What conscious connection actually is? The answer isn't trying harder to be present. The answer is building what I call integrated connection, a framework rooted in 3 simultaneous practices: connection to yourself, connection to the people around you, and connection to something larger than any single outcome. Most people focus on one at a time, but sustainable peace and sustainable leadership requires all 3 working together. When any one breaks down, you feel it everywhere, as unease, as irritability, as that low-grade sense that something is off, but you can't name it. When Paolo finally saw his own pattern, the control, the dismissiveness, the defended confidence, he didn't just become a better manager. He became a better father, a better partner, not because he applied a leadership framework to his personal life, but because he was finally seeing himself clearly, and that clarity travels. Finding your missing piece. When you lead from integrated connection, something shifts that people can't quite name but immediately feel. You become the one who makes the difficult look manageable, the one people want to follow, not because you work harder, but because you're operating from a fundamentally different foundation. Peace is not separate from leadership. It is the missing piece of leadership. That piece doesn't live in your office, your title, or your next performance review. It lives in knowing yourself. Fully, honestly, without excuses. It lives in the willingness to see that the way you lead and the way you live are not 2 different things. They never were.
That's all today from Fast Company. Talk to you tomorrow.
SpokenLayer.